Greetings, everybody. I am super excited to introduce our tonight's guest. I've known her for a while, and this interview I've been trying to get for a few months, but due to various circumstances, it's been delayed. But I'm so happy it's finally happening. This is Emina Bajtarević, and if I pronounced it wrong, you let me know. Oh, I got it right. Okay, that's good. You're also known as the Moksha. And I came across you, I guess, when I was first doing my assignment danger spy music videos for my games and stuff like that. And I was looking for some European femme fatale type of voice and things. And you were perfect for the Slipstream Monte Carlo adventure. And it was wonderful. And I was very impressed. And then when I was off to do some other interesting thing, I was looking for a duo for like a angel and devil for my Nemesis project. And I was looking at people I worked with who I really liked, and I saw this amazing video of you on like this European Got Talent where you were a finalist singing Phantom of the Opera with a puppet, I guess your grandfather puppet, but you were actually doing the entire thing yourself. And I was going, what is that's ventriloquism? But I was just blown away. And then I said, hey, can you do the different roles? And you did. And I was blown away again. And you're the only ventriloquist I actually know. And then ever since then, I guess we've been working on different projects. And now you're doing a few more for my Club Styx haunted jazz thing. I mean, you're one of the friendliest and most creative people I know. And and you have a good sense of humor. But I was just trying to write down here, these my notes, and tell me if I missed something. Singer, songwriter, guitarist, musician, you're a social anthropologist, teaching assistant professor, ventriloquist, voice teacher, voiceover actor, visual artist, fantasy fiction writer, winner of a ton of awards of vocal skill, lots of TV shows like Super Talent. You're a Eurovision contestant. I guess I'm just lucky enough that I met you before you go off into the stratosphere. But welcome to this show, and thank you for taking the time to talk with us.
Thank you. It's a great honor. And I almost feel embarrassed with all these things you have listed because I don't see myself as all of that individually, but more like a mix of everything at once, and it's just me.
Well, introduce yourself a little bit more then. How would you introduce yourself if someone said, hey, who are you?
Well, I guess I always like to start with what I know that my friends can tell you about me, because I think that's even more real, and then I will get back to what I have to say. But about me, I guess I love animals a lot, and I love music, and I love video games and movies and all things arts, especially pop culture. There was a certain time where I felt almost ashamed of loving pop culture so much because I
Hmm.
got into some friend groups that were almost communist in their views, and they were going really extreme on westernization, and we should go back to Yugoslav and Balkan culture. So I was like hush hush about liking American and Japanese media. But luckily, I'm all done with that. So I guess when I talk about myself, I will, yeah, mostly t tell you about my interests rather than all the other things that you have listed. So I guess big part of my life is writing and creating, singing, and playing video games.
And you're modest. And I guess you're from the BIH, or how do you call it's the Bosnia, Herzegovina? Like what?
Herzegovina, yes.
Yeah. So I guess you do have that whole Balkan kind of influence out there too. So yeah, I know over the time I've known you, you've certainly enlightened me about is it certainly a different points of view out there, which is very fascinating. And but you seem to be a big hit there. I do know you have songs that have gotten big attention out there, but beyond your home country, which I guess is why you got to like also all these shows, Eurovision awards, and so on. I guess is that your plan is to go on and become a musical artist? I mean, you have so many different things, or do you have a plan? Or you just go with,
I
you
mean,
know,
the plan is whatever the plan becomes, like whatever path really opens itself up. I am planning on releasing stuff in English. I mean, music in English that I'm writing myself, not necessarily just the stuff that I do with other clients, because I think that I have what it takes to write and compose and work on music for shows, for movies, for perhaps even other artists, not just myself. And I know that that is something that I want to keep doing, regardless of it being, a big break, making it big. I'm not necessarily focused on that having to happen for me to keep on working. You will never see me not doing music.
Fair enough. And you also go by the name the Moksha, if I'm getting the pronouncing it correctly, I believe. What is that all about? The name and
Well, Vimoksha is
that
a
whole concept.
term in Hinduism. It's in Eastern philosophies, and it means liberation, release. It's mostly focused on the soul. And I picked it out because it's supposed to be a term that comes before Nirvana, which is everybody's favorite grunge band and a very well-known term, Nirvana, the reincarnation. And I thought, okay, Vimoksha or just Moksha for short is not so popular. It's not a name that I have seen a lot. And if you Google Vimoksha, there's two different things that would come up, if not me. It is either some Hindu massage therapy webpage that I haven't looked into too much, or a Japanese hard rock band that
Hmm.
goes really heavy. So you have those two, and you have me in like the Google search. But I guess I chose this name because 10 years ago I had a rock band, my first band, and we wanted to play Led Zeppelin covers, Red Hot Chili Pepper covers, Nirvana covers. And at the time I was studying philosophy in high school, and I really liked the name Moksha and Vimoksha, so we chose it, and I kept it because we broke up after like 6 months of working together. Classic high school band.
But I'm just wondering then, because some of your music that I hear or I've seen you be putting out over the last few years, it does seem, I don't, maybe I'm wrong, but besides being pop, it does have a kind of spiritual or kind of mystical or mythological type of stuff. So I don't know if that also is part of the whole concept, because Vimoksha then seems to actually resonate quite with it as well.
It does, and I must admit it's unintentionally. I don't write and think I must create under the name of Vimoksha. I am the liberation. I really don't think that way at all, and it just so happens to be. And some reviews of my first and currently only album have described it as a very strong and sensible diary of young female experience. And I really like that because while Vimoksha means liberation and emancipation, it is also used in Eastern philosophies as feminine liberation and emancipation. So it may also be seen as a very feminist term. Not to say that I'm intentionally trying to be feminist when I write, but I'm so not going to hide behind myself. I'm very proud to be a woman, and I'm very proud to speak from that emotional side. So, yeah, I think that Vimoksha resonates well with what I do.
Well, since you've mentioned high school and all these different things and your youth, I might as well, we psychiatrists always ask about childhood stuff. But were you always creative from the get-go
Oh.
as soon as you popped out and walking, going, I would start playing a guitar, or like, were you always this
Uh,
way from the very get-go?
well, my first artist experience was actually drawing.
Hmm.
I learned how to write and read before I was 3 years old, and I immediately started to draw. It was kind of hand in hand. I was in love with Disney movies, and I
Hmm.
just wanted to replicate that and create my own world. So very early on, I was writing stories. Like I wrote my first, let's call it novel, in like a notebook when I was 8 years old.
Hmm.
And then it just kept on kind of piling up. I was just writing all the time, drawing all the time. I loved music, but I really didn't think that that is something that I would be doing. It just sort of grew on me as time passed on. But I think it's ironic a bit that drawing was my first true love because that's what I do the least these days. And sometimes I get this urge to do it and I don't. I don't know why. It's almost like I'm afraid to get back to it. Maybe I'm not good anymore. I don't know.
Well, it does seem like I know. different forms of art seem to different artists seem to go from one to another and so on. I was just listening to Howard Shore. Yeah. Howard Shore, I think, is going, I paint with my art. Like there's lots of overlap between the different things and how people start to conceive these things. But as you were growing up then as a kid, drawing and writing and all this, I'm just curious, did your schools, I don't know what the system's like over there. And I don't know what your family was like. Were there artists in the family or other fellow creatives, or your school said, let's support her and this is great, versus you'll have to work some sort of like, I don't know, realistic job. How was it for you?
My grandma, she was very talented in drawing and singing, so I got that from
Mm.
her for sure. My dad is also multi-talented. He projected, for example, the whole house that we live in, even though he never finished like architecture or
Mm.
building and engineering. He just is. He also writes music and had a band before and is very, I think, very like artistically right side of the brain, very good. But I would also say the left side if he's able to do, heavy architectural maths without any school. But as for support, I don't think that they kind of as for my parents that they pushed me into the artist direction. They were more focused, or at least my mom, on me getting a degree and being great in school, which this is not gonna sound very modest, but I always was really good at school, which went on to high school and university and master's degree as well.
Mhm.
But my teachers have supported me a lot in arts. Uh, they supported me in every way imaginable. Like I was probably one of the only kids that was excused to not have to like listen and watch, but to draw while the class is going on because they just
Mm.
knew that I'm still going to kind of be good at exams regardless of my attention and that I'm listening either way, which was good for me, but also not too good because it affected how other students view me. So it would
Uh,
build kind of like a disparity between me and others because I would be treated differently while doing things that they're not allowed to do just because I'm good at them. And that could hurt me sometimes socially.
well, it's interesting. I know, like, again, being, I used to be a child psychiatrist too, but it used to be where people would doodle a lot. They'd have like some mild ADD, or they had super creativity, but they were super smart, so they can always get everything done. But they needed something to distract themselves while in the class so they could actually focus. As it actually, versus it being some special thing, it was actually what we think an accommodation to help them really focus and be there. Um, but again, that's, and then people would understand it, versus people just, I guess, judging it like, oh, why do they get that special sort of thing. But yeah, sorry you had some adversity then from the peers, but I suppose that's what happens when people often don't follow the general crowd and kind of are an outlier. I guess that, do you think some of that might have also influenced your work or your creativity, just having to, people going through hardships, I guess, also somehow makes them
Yeah,
come up with different things.
I would often retreat into these imaginary worlds. It
Mm.
was a copium, more than me thinking, oh, I'm good at this, so I'm going to keep doing it. There was never anything that came like that for me. I had no ambition until recently, absolutely zero ambition. I just wanted to do it because it was a great escape from reality in every way. And being good at school kind of enabled me to do as much art and games and these like artistic worlds as possible, while escaping my parents being upset about me doing so. So I would perform at school in order to be able to just, I don't know, be somewhere else in my free time.
That makes sense. And yet, I guess you went through. You seem to be very, very productive now. What was the switch that flipped you into super, like, I'm going to do stuff?
It was some kind of, mm, I guess, response to seeing some people that I've known through life be, again, this is gonna sound very immodest, but slower than me in certain things, or not so good at school, or not really objectively too talented. And, one day, oh, this person suddenly made this or is out there showing off something. And then the other day is like, oh, this person is suddenly achieving stuff or trying to achieve them. Why the hell am I sitting in my room not sharing anything that I'm good at with anybody? And I wasn't sharing because, and this is also a big problem for me today, because I try so hard to be friends with girls. And it's so difficult because
Hmm.
if I share something that I'm good at, I'm bragging, I'm full of myself. I should just zip it and not share it. And that was my biggest problem always. I refuse to share things that I do because I'm afraid that people will judge me being too braggy. And that's mostly what hindered me for many years. I just didn't want to, like bother anyone with my presence. But then I decided to stop because if others can do it, why couldn't I do it?
Someone told me lately, everyone deserves the chance to fly. And if I'm flying solo, at least I'm flying free. To those who ground me, take a message back from me.
I know you told me too that you sometimes live in Norway, things of that nature. You told me, I'm forgetting the word, but you just described they have a whole culture out there similar to don't excel and don't try to outshine, or that's bad. I don't know if that's also in other
Um,
European countries or whatever, but is that the kind of philosophy? It's like keep your powers and your secret abilities to yourself because you're going to, it's not, I don't know.
yeah, it didn't help. Moving to Norway did not help this exact same issue. I was
Mhm.
also faced with a lot of rejections, a lot of, oh, whatever, reactions to what I do. Um, a lot of people called it like music, not a real job. I've had some very ugly comments like, forget what you're doing, just get a job at a grocery store. Whereas I'm a highly educated person. Even if we forget arts, I'm a highly educated person. I should do better than a grocery store. It's just how it is. Not that working at a grocery store is like a bad job, but I don't see myself doing something like that. So I was really, really like passive and drawn back into myself. I gained a lot of weight living in Norway. I was really
Mhm.
unhappy. I was just stuffing myself with candy and being by myself. Yeah, it didn't help. But then just something shifted. I got so upset at the world, and then I started going out in it, conquering.
I always say, hey, if it motivates you in a healthy way, why not? But it's like saying, why are all these other people excelling when you can too? That's a good thing. But it's interesting because it sounds like you had quite the uphill battle. I think you also told me at one point too, like a lot of your singing and training was self-trained. Like you did it all yourself. You had to do mostly all this, even though it sounds like you in competitions against all these different people who are all this training, and you blow them away because you seem to say, I'm going to do it, and you just do it. And that's why, again, for people watching this, I'm wondering, where do you get that strength, or where do you say, I'm just going to do it? Like, is there something you draw upon? I don't know. You might not know yourself, but if you do, be interesting to kind of share.
I just have no fear.
Hmm.
Um, I have like shame in a sense. Of course, I'm not just gonna go out and make a fool out of myself, nor do I advise people to do that. But I think that I
Yeah.
am not insecure in my abilities. I can be insecure in myself. I can wake up and just think that everything I'm doing is for nothing. But I feel like I'm never insecure in my abilities to sing, to create, to understand music. I love it deeply. I feel it deeply. So I have no fear of performing. Of course, when I'm prepared, I think I would be like terrified if I had to perform on some big stage singing something that I don't think I'm doing good. So it's just about me giving myself that evaluation whether or not something is good. And I think that I know enough to be able to deduce if something is good or not,
Hmm.
which again is often criticized by my some of my peers who think that I am self-absorbed and full of myself for saying that something I do is objectively good. And I'm talking about this because of your audience, and because you say that you talk and teach about mental health. It is so important to understand these micro bullying practices that keep on happening even in adulthood. And I would like to share an example, if that is
Mhm.
okay with you,
100%.
of something that happens and keeps happening. So 3 years ago, I competed at a festival that now annually I participate in with the orchestra. I sing backing vocals for other contestants. But then I was one of the contestants. It was my first year there. I was also in the orchestra. And I sang Stop by Sam Brown because my dad adores that song. And I just wanted to have an orchestra back me up. I wasn't really thinking about winning. I wanted to have a recording of me singing in front of like 30 people playing instruments. And I finished, and then there was like a break time for the orchestra to have lunch. And the chief of the orchestra told us that we also have a vote in who will win.
Hmm.
And of course, I didn't say anything because I'm one of the contestants, so it made no sense that I kind of, put myself into it. But I said some other singers that I thought were really good. And what today I see as this microbullying that I didn't see then. What happened from other ladies or younger girls in the orchestra was that they didn't even mention me as a potential winner, not even in top three. I didn't exist. And they would talk to me and speak to me and say, "Yeah, we think that person will win." Sorry, this is my cat. um, they would not at all include me in this conversation. And I was such an idiot. I would agree with them and say, yeah, you're right. Like they were so much better. And then I ended up winning in the end, which is the moral of the story, that I should have shut it down then. And it took me years, like years, to learn to shut down comments like that.
It's an interesting thing especially, I guess it's a very competitive world, the arts world too, in some ways, but
Yeah, but I still get the imposter syndrome all the time. Like today, I
Hmm.
was freaking out. I was supposed to make a portfolio about myself, trying to pitch to some agency that actually shows interest in working with me, and then I freaked out
Hmm.
because it feels like everything that I can line up is just some achievements on paper. What is it actually? What does it actually mean? Does it actually make a difference? Does it have any impact? No, not really, maybe on me. So then I get this kind of imposter syndrome, as in like, sure, it's objectively great success for me, but in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't mean anything.
What's interesting, so when I was introducing you and I'm listing all these things out, and I'm probably sure I left out some
Yeah.
things, you're going, that doesn't sometimes resonate with you, which is an interesting struggle to kind of just accept, oh, well, maybe it's true. Maybe, as you said, like, because earlier you said, well, I do have skills and abilities, and then people get upset when they actually say, I feel good about that. So you do get I'm not sure if other artists are that way or not, but it does sound like sometimes, whether it's Norway or whatever, it's like, do not let your powers be known. You must behave and keep yourself low. I love that your cat is here. Do you want to introduce
She
your
is very
cat, by
much
the way,
here
to
and
the
very much
audience?
affecting the camera.
Do you want to introduce your cat?
Yes, of course. She also
She
obviously
clearly
seems very
wants.
much wanting to be introduced. She loves laying on the desk. She's purring right now.
There you go.
This is Hurrem, named by the wife of Turkish or Ottoman Empire Sultan Suleiman, the most powerful
Mhm.
sultan in history, and she was she was his wife and also a very important woman. So I thought she is very much like a sultan, beautiful princess Hurrem. There
So do
she
not
is,
mess with
a
her.
bit grumpy. No, but she's so loving. You just can't really tell.
Oh, she looks cool. I like her. It's like those eyes. But meanwhile, while she's kind of like distracting, I would say though, again, it's interesting you were talking about the mental health aspects about actually, because again, I think this is what artists often feel like too about in society. It is interesting about how artists looked upon what they do. And even though everybody realizes that's part of being human is actually appreciating art, enjoying entertainment, things that bring people their humanity, they're often treated like I don't know. third class citizens in the sense like, well, you're not like a high professional, whatever. And yet the high professional then will hire the artist to do stuff for them. Um, and again, you have this huge academic background as well. It must be quite the interesting balance.
Well, the funny thing is that despite all of my amazing grades at uni, I'm technically unemployed. I do have a lot of jobs that I do, but I'm at like this, as we call it in Bosnia, Bureau of Unemployment. And it is this institution where you need to come every 45 days to kind of get a stamp that you're still within the country and not working illegally, seasonally someplace else. Um, and it's awful because it's supposed to be this place where future employers will look through the catalog of potential workers and give you a job. But there's a lot of political corruption in this country, and it's very hard to get a job just by existing.
And
So
it,
that's why I don't have one. I mean, even when I worked at uni and now that I work as a vocal coach, this is all based on this like one-time contract or monthly contract, where it doesn't go into your retirement funds, it doesn't go into your healthcare. I'm at the bureau, and my taxes are counted a bit differently when people pay me off. But it's a bit sad, which is why I don't necessarily want to stress about the academic. I want to keep on writing academic papers. I haven't been doing that a lot since I finished my degree because I focused on music. Um, but since I'm unemployed anyway, I can just do it and write and contribute in that sense because no one can stop me.
well, let me a different angle then. From all these different stresses, the things you're talking about, then does the actual engagement of writing and making music and so on actually like help with dealing with all that stress? In a sense, like that's what keeps you going. Like if you actually had to stop writing music completely, would you just go, what is the point of life, for example, versus saying, no, this is my life. I am this.
I don't think I could ever assume a role of someone who doesn't do music.
Mm-hmm.
Even if one day I become a wife and a mother and all those other identifiers, I wouldn't consider them my top, like you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like music is definitely my first love, and then you have writing also. I put that a lot aside because I haven't really published my novel yet, but I write all the time, music and books and stories. I create and write and invent things. And if I'm not doing that, then I try to invent DIY presents for my friends or any other project like that. Just let me tamper with something. As long as it's not like mechanical. I can't fix your TV, but I can, paint you something.
Well, not yet, I guess. But as I said, you and again, you
Mhm,
took on the whole learning how to sing and everything on your own. I'm just curious again, because you're the only ventriloquist I know, and I'm so impressed by
mhm.
what you did on the videos I saw. Was that also self-trained, or like how did you do that? Like I've never seen
Yeah.
any. I've only seen ventriloquists on TV. I've never seen them actually do huge, gigantic singing numbers.
Mhm. Yeah, it is huge and gigantic, but I will thank my breathing space, this resonating box within me for that. I did not practice. I practice only in a sense that I will look at myself in the mirror to make sure that the lips don't move too much, just to kind of get that in the brain. But vocally, I don't necessarily sit and practice. It just happened. I tried, it worked. I have these voices inside me. Maybe I would have never discovered if I didn't just try. Um, and
But
I'm
did you used
glad
to?
that I
I'm
did.
just curious because of all your, all the fantasy stuff. Did you used to play with puppets or
Mhm.
something, or like how did you even think about? I'm just curious again how like you stumbled onto. Oh, let me just do this. But why? How on earth did you come up with like, let's just do it? Are you going to get one? Okay.
Yes, I'm gonna get my bat puppet.
Oh yes, which will be featured at one of our projects at some point.
Yes.
Trudy.
Pretty, I put a little hat on her. Uh, I had her because, like I said, I escape into these imaginary worlds. I bought her because of these eyes.
Hmm.
Can you see them? They're a bit blurry, maybe.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah. They
Trudy.
can they pop in once in a while. Yes, I see. Yes, she got the cool eyes.
Um,
She's a fruit bat,
and
not a vampire.
yeah, so you can put your hand in the puppet and you can suddenly move her, and she's so cute and very like flexible to move around. And she was the only hand puppet in this big like cage of Disney toys.
Hmm.
So someone obviously took her off the shelf of the puppets and left her behind. And then I felt so bad and I got her home. And she was sitting home for a long time. And while I was writing my thesis, I was so bored. I was in Oslo. I had nothing to do. And I just tried to sing something like ventriloquisty. And I took the puppet to get into character. I recorded it, I sent it to my friends and my parents. It worked. Most of the responses were, Emina, now it's time for you to start doing drugs.
As opposed to, holy crap, that's amazing. But I guess
No,
that's
it's
some
just
of the
like it's
reactions.
insane.
It's like, but I guess that's an interesting thing too, is like surrounding yourself with kindred spirits that actually appreciate what you do, which is what I find most artists need to do so that you keep on going versus people just shooting it down necessarily. Like to me, it's also like, oh, you told me as a kid you love Disney and love this and that. See the Disney toys, you see the like it all kind of is a thread and it all leads together in some way. Like makes sense to me now that you put it that way. And like being told, oh, why don't you go trying to do drugs versus, holy wow.
Ja te zolim Trudy i iako ja znam da isi volite dedo najviše, ja se nadam da ćemo i ovaj sladak. Eto, dosta, čao, čao.
Of course, maybe I'm an oddball. Well, I'll admit I'm oddball, and most of my people I hang out with would be considered off the beaten path that I like to hang out with because then we all appreciate what we do. But it's interesting that people would say that comment. Maybe I don't know, or maybe you just said, "Oh,
Yeah, well, it depends. There's some people who are in awe with it, that are close to me. There's some people who just kind of take it as is because you have to keep in mind that my whole life I have been showcasing just the ability to just randomly do new things and
yeah,
be good at them. So for some of my friends, this was just one of many things, and they support me with all of their heart. Like my best friend Kemo, who is in all my music videos, he doesn't really, I can't even think if he ever praised me, if he ever like actually told me, damn girl, like you sang that so well. Wow, congratulations. Not really, but instead he follows me when I have performances. He edits my videos. He does my makeup if I need it. He works on my photographs. He arranges interviews. He helps me in that sense. So I don't need my friends to praise me. I need them to support me in that
yeah.
sense, to be there for me and to help me out when there are assignments that I just cannot do by myself.
Well, that's cool too, because I guess you've also got the wisdom, as you're saying, is even though you got all these abilities and you got what I think very super fantastic ones, you're saying, yeah, I can't do it all myself anyways. I need a team. I need people. I guess Kemo, as you said, he's Gorgon Stone, I think you told me, right? Call out the Gorgon Stone.
Yes,
Uh, yeah, so okay.
thank
But no, it's interesting too, because as you said, I guess you make connections and go ahead and do all these things. But one thing I'm just going to go back to when you said you were in Oslo and you put on weight, you were depressed and all that until you flipped the switch. Since you flipped that switch and started doing this stuff, have you had any more burnouts or dealing with depression or anything like that? Or it's been this actually kind of now that you do this, it helps keep it away, if that makes any sense.
Well, do you want an honest answer or do you want a
Well, it's
happy
up to you.
answer?
By the way, you don't have to say anything at all. As I say on this, it's whatever you want to feel like. I just asked it only because of what you said before, but I'm just wondering if now that you felt you got like a purpose and it's like you're feeling like I got a meaning and I'm starting to really know who I am, if that's helped.
Oh, well, I mean, I was once asked, this was, I think, over 2 years ago on an interview live, morning program. I was talking about, oh, I love making people happy. I love telling jokes. And then this host, she asked me, but are you happy?
Hmm.
And I froze. I could not answer her. And I said, oh, don't ask me that in the morning. But then she was quiet. She
Yeah.
waited for me to finish. And I said, yeah, I'm happy, just so we can kind of carry on. It was like such a trick question. And I have this, I recorded this as a reminder that that is how I feel truly. It is, don't ask me that. But I'm always like, when I finish a live performance, especially when I do it with my band or other people, when I have this sense of unity with other people and it's over, that is when I get very, very sad, like overwhelmed with sadness. I wouldn't call it depression, just insane, immense sadness that something so lovely is over. And I think that is my biggest weakness. I love sharing art with people. I give it meaning when I'm able to work with others, when I'm able to share this happiness. If I succeed in something, it's not enough for me if it's just me. That's why this whole ventriloquism thing I kind of take with a grain of salt. It is maybe my biggest accomplishment objectively, but for me, the least important. Like my favorite things that I've done are performances with the band, even if I had 20 people in the audience, because we worked together and we shared it together. So I think that is when I'm happy. Otherwise, I'm mostly not very much.
So you like collaboration. It's well, you said earlier, and I guess that makes sense, like about sticking out by yourself and being kind of like identified as different or somehow because of your skills, being with other people who are part of your team makes it so much easier to like go through with that. But also, I think it's not uncommon for many artists when they finish a project, it's kind of a slump. It's like all the energy from doing it and all that the coming down, which so I know a lot of artists sometimes have 6 or 7 projects kind of all kind of floating around at the same time. So as one ends, there's still a few others to keep them going. I don't know if that's how you work, if you got like many multiple irons and fires so that you never completely like, I got nothing going on. I'm super down.
Yeah, I always have something. I always occupy
Mhm.
myself with something, and living in Bosnia, especially in Sarajevo, really offers me that. Because people here are very colorful. They do all sorts of things, and there is no such thing as don't brag. I mean, be ready for people to gossip, but you can do whatever you want and go out with it. So here I'm like carrying the weight of so many projects and so many different things I'm involved in. But I like that a lot. Like you said, it's really nice to have a lot of things floating around.
Do you ever take on too much then? Like again, for the artists out there and creatives, do you ever say, I've taken on 20 different projects. Oops, I should have only taken 19. Or how do you handle all that?
I am honestly looking forward to have a day where I can think that I have too much, because then I think that I've made it if that happens.
Hmm.
If I'm like on the road and doing this and doing that and having like a day that's filled with a schedule that I can't keep up with, then I'll be happy.
It's surprising. Well, again, it's not surprising as what you told me about where you live and everything then, but because of all your accomplishments, I'm not sure why nobody has come up and said, hey, why don't we just turn her into a superstar because she's got all these skills. But again, sometimes I wonder if it's just you have to be in the right place at the right time with the right kind of things too.
But I have this luck that I'm quite like circulating in the media. And I
Hmm.
have performances all the time of different sorts. People invite me to sing. I sing in theaters. I sing for private parties. I sing as Vimoksha with my band or myself on festivals. Like I always have music commissions going on. I'm constantly like out there, and it's a great thing. I do wish it was bigger and more out there, especially I think the ventriloquism thing could go far. It is a shame that I haven't been taken out by some agency that wants to shape me into that. But it's never too late, which is why I've been working on this portfolio that I mentioned earlier, and I'm going to try and actually try to sell myself out there because why not?
Well, also, I said, I'll send this thing around across North America as much as I can and hopefully send you gigs and opportunities because I think that makes sense. I have a question too, though, which I often ask everybody too, especially in the art field, because of everything you're doing, the whole concept of AI that's come into the world.
Hmm.
I ask this because to me, I think it does impact people when it comes to creativity and the arts and so on. where people are making all this artificial music and artificial writing and artificial this. Has it impacted you at all, or your thoughts on it, or its role you feel in this creative sphere?
Well, it hasn't yet taken any jobs away from me. I just noticed that when people request me to sing a certain song, I can hear the AI vocal as the sample, or I can kind of tell when a person has written something using AI. It just lacks a lot of soul.
Hmm.
Um, but I can't really form like a proper opinion. Culturally, I feel like we should learn how to live with it because it's here and it's going to stay and it's going to evolve and it's probably going to do a lot more than it does now. And as every change in technology, previous generations were rejecting other big deals. Like photograph was, oh, why would you have that when you can paint? But it didn't really like abolish painting. So I feel
Hmm.
like AI won't remove people's talents. It won't remove our ability to do so. What I really hope would happen, and you have this on record if I'm right in like 100 years,
Okay.
I think it's going to make human work even more expensive and valuable because you will have AI wherever you go, but then we will be missing out on the human. And then suddenly handiwork will be even more like a big deal. For instance, when someone makes their own dresses, they will be very expensive. Like handmade clothes are so much more expensive than fast fashion, which you have everywhere. So that's what I think is going to happen to art. Suddenly, my services as a vocalist will cost you more because I will be one of the rarer human vocalists out there. That's how I see it.
Well, that's cool. I think we might not have to hopefully wait 100 years. I'd already noticed there's a backlash from the digital world where people go analog records and all sorts of different things to try to get back to some of the more humanistic kind of feels of technology. But yeah, okay, well, that is cool. Speaking of things that you are doing in projects, what have you been up to? Any current projects, any recent releases, things we could like share with everybody listening?
Well, unless you mind listening to music in Bosnian language, then of course I would suggest and send everyone to listen to Vimoksha on Spotify because I think my music is very nice and musically very complex and interesting. And I've arranged everything myself, and a lot of it has been arranged in GarageBand as a demo. So it's more like a showcase of what can be done, even when you are not just low on budget, when you have no budget but you
Mhm.
have a dream. Um, and my latest single has been in production with my colleague from Brazil, so it wasn't my solo production. It definitely doesn't sound like a garage band because it isn't. It's called Corporativo in Spanish, and it's supposed to blend pop techno with more mysterious and dark lyrics.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. I think it's very good for clubs and midnight drives.
Okay. I think you're being modest again, but yeah, it's interesting. You have that balance between, you got the skills, and like, it's for this, but hey, maybe other people. Not again. You also told me, I think at some point, you've also written out in English almost all the translations of every one of your songs, so people could, if they are interested, would actually be able to look at it and understand what you're singing, even in other languages. Is
Yeah,
that
this is in the live sessions. The
yeah?
live session where I have 5 tracks from the album performed with my band. I have, yeah, made sure to translate everything because that's my favorite performance that I've done.
What's the album?
What do you mean?
Oh, you said the album.
My album.
The your album. Yeah, yours, not mine. What's it
Yeah, it's
called?
my album. It's called Vilenjak, which means the elf, but the word
Hmm.
Vilenjak is so much cooler in Bosnia because Vila is a fairy and Vilenjak is a male fairy. So he's not necessarily supposed to be an elf.
Mhm.
He's more like a fairy, but a dude. So it's a more whimsical, magical word. It's
Mhm.
still a guy with wings, which is why the whole artistic visual identity of the album is with wings. On YouTube, every song has like its own set of wings that represents it.
That's cool. Again, yeah, some things do get lost in translation to English or trying to find the right words because it's like, as I say, it always sounds better in Latin or something like that as well, But it's so again, you told me too, like you used to like all this fantasy and things like that too from childhood. But I guess then that still is part of what gets into your songs and brings them to life.
Yes, I love to combine abstract, metaphorical in what I write, and a lot of people don't get it. It's very unfortunate in this like era, especially in the Balkans. It's very popular to write trap music about sex and cars and expensive watches and having two girls on your lap, uh, underneath like a drill beat,
Hmm.
with heavy autotune and gibberish. And that is reality. And kids that are like 10, 11, 12 are listening to it and memorizing it and recording themselves on TikTok, lip syncing that stuff. It's surreal almost. So I don't really fit in there, which is another reason why I think I should try to go, west.
Well, again, it's interesting. I don't know if West will be much different in the sense that they got rap and similar things, like again, like
Mhm.
I don't know, with a lot of violence and things of that. Versus, I guess, for the do you have an audience in mind, or like you do it for yourself? I guess that's the other thing: commercial versus art versus the combo. Like someone just told you, yeah, do that. Could you sing a song about like drugs and driving a fast car and all that sort of stuff? Or would that make it go, I cannot get my
Yeah,
soul
I
into.
could, but I
Mhm.
would still have to add some of my complex lyricism into it. I'm not against any genre per se, but of course, I cannot recognize myself singing about drugs, alcohol, fast cars as like my experience because I have no experience.
Well,
So I couldn't be one
although
of those trap artists.
although you're being modest again, I believe, because I believe, don't you have like a hit song about "Don't Call the Dealer,"
Yes.
which is about drugs, but in the other a way about anti-drug and things like
Yeah,
that.
but it's a very like lo-fi alternative pop, underground alt, yeah.
So the way you define it, though, that makes it something. But I know you're defining it in different musical genres, and I'm looking at the actual, in my mind, like what's the theme and the message, regardless of what genre it is. But is that how you think about things too? It is if it's a certain musical style, it's going to hit in different ways versus more a message in general. Or I don't know if I'm
Mm,
making sense on that, but
yes,
yeah.
but I don't really think about the audience, uh, which is a super anti-capitalist way to think about music. I just convey what I feel. When I was writing that song, Nazovi neko ko sam dealer, call someone other than your dealer. Again, very ugly translation. Um, I I just I was inspired by the name. It's a graffiti that Kemo Gorgon Stone has sent me by
Hmm.
his Faculty of Arts, Academy of Arts. And I just wanted to write a story, and I just had gotten my iPad then, and I was just learning to work in GarageBand. So I was like tampering around with the chords and with the music and with this different synths, and it just ended up being a very catchy melody. Then and just went from there. And I recorded a voice message with immediately the first half of the song.
Zovi nekog osim dilera, zato si uvijek lutko tako sam. Iako znam da ti to ne smeta, malo odmora ti zatreba. Nazovi nekog osim dilera.
And Kemo told me, Emina, you have to finish this now. That's it. You have to do it. So I did it mostly for him. And
Yeah,
then it ended up being
history.
what it is.
But
Yeah.
again, that's another great thing, as I said, you have good friends that actually kind of give you pushes sometimes in different directions. I don't know. I was thinking of Stephen King, where he threw out his book Carrie, and his wife grabbed it out of the garbage can and said, "Finish this and send it in," and then start his career. But so easy sometimes just to kind of think, eh. But it sounds like you said that's a kind of interesting struggle. I think many artists have is like, I've created it, I feel good about it, but is it good enough? Is it good? It's good enough. It's interesting of that kind of dilemma. But you went and did it. So congratulations. And as I said, you're doing all these other new projects, and I'll post them all out on this post with the um, video interview. But as we're coming near the end of the hour, I was just going to ask, talking about all this, if anything popped into your mind you wanted to share with anybody out there, any key words of wisdom for those trying to kind of follow their own kind of creative paths? And
I will send some advice that I told one of my students, the youngest student that I have. She's only 11. A piece of advice because her mom enrolled her kind of into this music school because she doesn't want her to stop doing music, but her friends are almost pressuring her to stop. When she sings, they roll their eyes, and she doesn't want to lose her friends. And she's actually really, really good. So my advice is to kind of be okay with the fact that people will roll their eyes at the sight of something good. But the people who are rolling their eyes are not your friends. Ergo, you should not focus on what they think. And in the long run, these people will not stick by your side, even if you don't succeed. But their wish is for you not to succeed, hence why they roll their eyes. So that is my advice. Just do your thing, damn it.
it's true. It's true. That, I guess that's often what they say, that's the secret of creation, is you have to bring your thoughts into some sort of material world, and then people will stare at it. But if you don't take that risk in the bravery of creating, then we never create. And
Absolutely.
yeah. Well, thank you, Emina, for talking with me. And hopefully people listening to this will learn quite a lot. I certainly did learn quite a lot listening to you. And it's certainly different points of view from where, well, not really different points of view, but a different kind of world you're living in over off in the Eastern European world versus other places, and what you have to do. And yet, as you said, taking GarageBand and almost no budget, and yet creating all this amazing stuff goes to show, like, again, being creative is about being creative and taking risks. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me. I hope I didn't suffocate you with all the stories and anecdotes and introspection.
Oh, not at all. I think that's what people really like, is actually hearing about actual stories about real people versus it being just what do you call it? Highfalutin kind of like general statements. It's more like, no, this is something you lived. And that's what makes it powerful, lived experience. So thank you.
Thank you.